This is Jonathan Snyder reporting for Big Four Talk, and I'm here joined by Aaron Mansfield and Ben Tarhan of the Spectrum, and we're here to preview this week's MAC tournament, which features the number 3 Buffalo Bulls. And Aaron, the Bulls finished the season with a 19-9 mark, able to grab the number 3 seed. Impressions on the season so far?
Well, 13 wins in a MAC. That's a school record for UB, clinching the MAC East outright. That had never happened before for UB. So it's been a success so far in Bobby Hurley's first campaign with the Bulls, but Hurley was not brought here to bring the Bulls to a division title. He was here to bring the Bulls to a conference title. So unless they make the NCAA tournament, I still don't think this season can be ruled a success, especially with Javon McCray, who's the school's all-time leading scorer, leaving after this season. So a lot of great work done so far. I really commend the job that Hurley has done. He's made some great progress with guys like Gerard Oldham and Xavier Ford, Shannon Evans, but there's still more work to be done, and I think number 3 seed is where we expected them to be, but we expect them to finish first at the end of the day.
Yeah. And Ben, Aaron talked about the team led by Javon McCray, but the supporting cast has also been good this year. Just talk about your impressions of this year's team.
Absolutely, there's been a lot of guys that have contributed a lot, scoring, assists, rebounds. Talking about guys like Josh Freelove, Aaron mentioned Gerard Oldham a little bit. Those are two other seniors that have been a real big part of the team this year in terms of scoring, in terms of getting assists to other players. Then some younger guys too. Shannon Evans has been huge, all-MAC freshman player, and also Justin Moss, who started playing a little bit of a bigger role later in the season, but as that second, third big guy off the bench behind Javon and Will Regan, kind of matching up along with Xavier Ford, he's been a big influence for the Bulls as well as a big guy in the paint.
Yeah, it was kind of a slow start this year for the Bulls, but I think in MAC play they've really stepped up their game, and they're just a game away from being a number 1 seed in this tournament. But Aaron, what has to happen in this postseason to make things different? Their recent luck in Ohio has not been the greatest, especially in Cleveland for this MAC tournament. What has to change this time around, and what has to be different for the Bulls to get over the hump and make it to their first NCAA tournament?
Well, you pointed out the recent luck has not been good in Ohio. This will be the 4th time I'm going down to Cleveland, and it's been a disappointing trip back every time. Last year, especially with the firing of Reggie Witherspoon coming at the end of it. Now, I've been saying all year that there are 2 key guys at the end of the year who have to step up for the Bulls to win this thing. Those are Will Regan and Shannon Evans. Had pretty good seasons so far. Shannon Evans made the All-MAC freshman team, somehow snubbed from 6th man of the year. We were talking about it earlier. We don't know how that happened. When Will Regan is hot from deep, he's a big forward who can stroke from downtown. The Bulls are a totally different team. It opens up the inside-outside game with Javon, and Shannon Evans is that energy guy. He comes in there, he's clapping his hands, he's slapping the ground, he's providing the defense, slashing to the rim. When Regan and Evans are on the game, the Bulls are the best team in the MAC. When they're off, because they're both streaky players, the Bulls are an average team. So their postseason hopes really ride on those 2 guys, John.
Coming into the season, you really stressed the importance of Shannon Evans, and you said he was going to be the guy that was going to make a difference. How much has he meant to this team this year? And how much you talked about, he really needs to play well, but how big of a role will he play down the stretch here?
I can't state enough how much he's meant to this team, and I think anyone who's watched him all year, who's covered him this year, has understood the kind of influence Shannon Evans has had on this team, and we kind of saw a little bit of what he's about in the last game when he threw that off the backboard pass to Justin Moss, which was the number 1 play on SportsCenter. But he's that kind of fearless player. He is not intimidated by any stage. And he talks about how that came from his upbringing in Virginia, how he was playing with some great players over the years, guys who are in the NBDL, have shots at the NBA now. Shannon was playing with them when he was a kid, so he's not afraid of playing against any MAC competition, and he really plays with that fearlessness that no matter how short he is, I believe he's listed at 5'10", which might be a little generous, no one intimidates him on the court.
Yeah. And Ben, I know Aaron kind of talked about first-year head coach Bobby Hurley. He's done a phenomenal job. This team is 19-9, and I think in a position that they're very happy with. The 3 seed is, a decent position, although it's not a bye all the way to the semifinals. But talk about the job that Hurley's done this year and what he has to prove in his first college postseason as a head coach.
I think the most impressive thing about Hurley this season has been the fact that the team has come on so strong as of late. They've won 8 of the last 10. They're 15-5 in the last 20 games, which in terms of where the team used to be at this time of the season, historically Reggie's teams fade a little bit down the stretch, but he really needs to keep that going into the MAC tournament now. The bye definitely helps. You get a couple extra days of rest, and the guys are talking about that, how it allows him to recover a little bit. And also, Hurley was talking about using that to his advantage. That's the biggest thing that he's trying to do in this tournament. I just spoke to him a few hours ago. Biggest thing he's trying to do is use the advantage that they have and the fact that they don't have to play those first 2 games to get to Cleveland. They're already in Cleveland, so they got to try, especially in that first game, they have to try to really bring out the tiredness, the fatigue in the other team that they're playing.
And we talked about Javon McCray, and we've talked about him all year. But is it really possible to overstate his importance to this team?
I don't think so. I think when the Bulls are playing their best basketball, they're getting the ball inside to Javon. And if they're not getting it to him, they're trying to take those long threes. And if you look at the games that they've lost in the MAC this season, it's been games where they've attempted 20, 30 threes, and they've only hit a dozen less than that. Those are the games that they've lost. So when they have Javon inside and he's able to grab rebounds and put the ball back up and score points, that's when they've been most successful.
Yeah. And UB will play on Thursday night in the quarterfinals against the winner of Northern Illinois and Eastern Michigan, two teams that they actually defeated this year, Northern twice and Eastern once. But Aaron, give me your prediction. I guess you're heading down this weekend. What do you expect to see, and who do you expect to come out on top in this league?
So beyond the first matchup, looking at the tournament as a whole, I think we're in agreement that if the Bulls are playing the way that they're capable of playing, they should win this conference tournament. I don't think anyone who's covered this team would disagree with that. With that being said, they're going to have some tough matchups, particularly later in the tournament. If they win that first game, they've got Toledo, who they lost to on the road on a buzzer beater this year. I don't think they'll have any problems in the quarterfinals. Now, of course, they can't look past that first matchup, but they did beat Eastern and Northern Illinois pretty handily in the three matchups with those teams this year. So I think the Bulls will cruise past that first game, but that second game against Toledo could be a major roadblock. So lots of challenges down the road, but I think the Bulls have the potential to win it.
Yeah. And Ben, Aaron said not to overlook that first matchup, but if they do get past that first matchup, how far do you see this team going?
If they get past the first matchup, I think it depends on what kind of team comes out on that back-to-back Thursday night, Friday night game, because especially against Toledo, that's going to be a pretty emotional game for the team, considering that was one of their first, actually it was their first conference loss this season. I think everyone on the team really wants another shot at Toledo. They lost in that buzzer beater last time, and honestly, I think those are the two best teams in the conference. I think Western Michigan's a little bit overrated. They got a little soft schedule coming from the West, but Toledo came into the conference schedule really strong, and they've kept it up throughout the conference schedule. I think Buffalo and Toledo are the two best teams, so that's kind of your de facto championship game there. So they really have to be careful and come out strong, and they can't afford to have one of those runs that they've had recently of maybe 4 to 6 minutes where they're not scoring as well as they can. They need to be scoring to their capability and playing defense the way they play defense from start to finish.
So when it all comes down to it, are the Bulls holding the MAC trophy and heading to their first NCAA tournament?
I think it's very, very likely possibility. I think definitely they have a chance at making the big dance.
It's a great question. Great question. And I've really debated this for a long time. I have to say no. I don't think they will, just because, and this is no knock against Bobby Hurley, but he's a first-year head coach, and he's going up against head coaches who have been in this business for a long time. Of course, Hurley has experience from being a player at Duke, and of course he's done a great job in the regular season, but when you get to Quicken Loans Arena, it's a totally different environment. When you're drawing up plays at the end of the game, it's a totally different ball game, and he has shown that he might crumble in some of those moments late in games, picking up untimely technical fouls and really costing his team the game in some of those games. So while I do think they have the talent to win it, and I would love to go with Ben and say, yes, they're going to the big dance, I don't have the confidence right now to predict that they will. Our beginning of the season prediction was that they would lose in the championship game. I don't know if they can get past Toledo in that second game.
Well, the Bulls will have that opportunity in just a couple of days. We'll all be down there covering the event. And as I stated earlier, they will play on Thursday night at 9 p.m. That game's going to be on ESPN 3. If they win that game, they'll play on Friday night at 9 p.m. in the semifinals. And if they're lucky to get past that, the championship game will be televised on ESPN 2 at 6:30 on Saturday. If the winner of that game heading to the NCAA tournament. Aaron and Ben, I want to thank you for taking the time to join us. And I'm Jonathan Snyder, reporting for Big Four Talk.